know, for the next like year or something. So we'd never had any time to, you know, stop and take a breather and consider what it all was, and then all of a sudden we were like thrust right into the limelight with the album. So it was a bit confusing, but I wasn't quite sure where I was at. And we were working too hard, you know, just doing too much. But it sort of calmed down after that. And right now, actually, I'd love a schedule as crazy as that. Cause
Right, yeah.
It is, I know, I do like an edge to things.
I mean, like when you wanted it so badly at 12, and you got the band at 16, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, has it turned out to be as good at 19?
Definitely, because I think the thing I wanted out of, you know, being in a band most of all was freedom, you know, to not have to, you know, not being a job, you know, or like sitting in an office or something. It's to be, you know, out there doing things my way, you know, the way we want to, you know, just living your life free, which is certainly, that's definitely, you know, come off, right?
But do you ever sit back sometimes and think, oh, we're overdoing it here? I mean, a gig is a gig, but then 6 hours afterwards is all madness.
I don't know, that happens sometimes, but just as long as you're you're fit for a gig, you know, the next day, I think that's all that's important.
When you go back to Dan Patrick, though, and see the people that you grew up with, which is only just a few years ago, it might seem like 100 years ago now, but it's only just a few years ago. Do you ever look and say, God, if I ever give out about this, carry on with that, it's better than this?
Yeah. Well, you sort of see people, and you know, everyone from school and all, like doing jobs and all, and you sort of go, that would be shit.
Is there anything about being an Ash that you don't like?
Sometimes you get really homesick when you're away, but then when you come home and if you're there for too long, you sort of get agitated because you're restless.
Yeah, well, I think, don't know, all the friends are really cool about the whole thing, and it's like, treat them as normal. But
Are they? There's no jealousy, or there's no,
no,
there's your man, the bloody rock star, who do you think he is?
I think they're all like, it's just the thing is something I do, and it's pretty cool, but like, I don't know whether this would be a thing for them. It's definitely, I wouldn't want to be doing what they're doing now, you know, like, I suppose I could cope with it, but now when you get a taste of this, it's like, this is the best.
Yeah.
I couldn't go back to that, you know.
Is it the personal side of things sometimes that are written in the tabloids that you don't like?
I don't care. I also don't care.
Don't care at all?
No. The only thing I care about is, you know, whenever your parents or whatever, your granny or whatever, she gets other people giving them stick, you know? That's whenever you sort of get your parents out of that, you know? But I honestly don't give a shit what's written in the papers. Because I think most people know it's all crap anyway.
Your debut album went straight into #1 on the British album charts. Did that mean, where were you when you heard that?
We were all in the bar in somewhere in London, and we were all sort of, didn't know for sure, but we had midweeks and stuff which said we were #1, and we sort of like, we're all sitting around cross fingers waiting for the phone call. It was so weird. We're just sort of like all sitting around. There was like a big crowd, big party people, all the record company and everyone involved, just sort of praying, waiting for the call, and it came, and it was like a big relief, you know.
Yeah.
Then it was just party.
And was there worry at any stage at all? I mean, like, there's Alanis Morissette and Oasis there at #2 and 3. There's new albums that week from The Cure and Sleeper and Everything But the Girl. Did you think in any way that, like, jeepers, you know, these guys are better known than we are to an extent, so we're not going to make the #1?
I don't know. There was no reason why we shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, sure. What about such a thing as a private life? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, totally. Actually, you know, we've got a real, you know, good family of, around us. All the people that work for us are really good. So it's actually, you know, it's quite a comfortable life, really. I mean, we've learned to deal with it all.
But what do you do? I mean, do you cultivate? Do you sort of want to make sure there is such a thing as two Tim Wheelers? There's that one that's out there in front of the camera or on the stage or whatever, but there's the real Tim Wheeler as well.
Well, I sort of had to, you know. Or that's the way I first dealt with, you know, fame. But since then, you know, well, we've been in the States almost like half this year, the last half of the year, and you know, haven't had to, you know, do that. I think, you know, I've learned to deal with success, so in the future I won't have to. You know, I can just be honest about everything, really.
What's been really mad? I mean, the first gig in Boston, going to Japan.
Yeah, Japan's the craziest, actually. The first time we went there was mayhem. I didn't know what on earth was going on, because you're jet lagged for a start, you know, and you arrive after 10-hour flight, and greeted by all these screaming girls, and that was quite a shock the very first time.
Yeah, it was total shock. Like, the first time there, I was like, didn't know what to expect, and you just get like all these fans. Like, I think the first fan we actually met was like about a 35, 40-year-old businessman, suit and tie, coming up and signed my CD and stuff, which is like, you wouldn't really get that from like someone that age here. And then with fans just waiting outside the hotel all the time, it's just crazy. But so I think we have come a bit more adjusted to it.
But we've been there 3 times, and actually grown to love the place. It's really cool.
4th time there, it's like you're not so. It's not such a punch in the face, you know. And you actually start to know your way around Tokyo.
But I mean, is the whole thing good fun? Like, do you enjoy it all? Do you enjoy it all when the gig is over?
That's the best bit.
Is it?
Or just after, the vibe after, the sort of, you come off and if it was great, and everyone's just partying,
And how do you feel when you played a bad gig and you come off stage?
Yeah.
Is it like, to have it, tomorrow will be better?
If you play a bad gig, it doesn't, I don't think we've ever played a terrible gig, whenever it really mattered. It's never been a disastrous show. But, if you're in a sort of gig in America or whatever, and it's playing in front of someone else's crowd, and say you just get a polite response or whatever, you just walk off and go, fuck 'em, tomorrow's a different day.
What if
You
tomorrow
gotta, you gotta do like all that groundwork to start with.
Yeah. But what about like something like, oh yeah, I mean, that was just another song on the album in some ways. Did you know, I mean, obviously the strategic placing of it as a single, just at the beginning of the summer, did you know it was going to become an anthem for the summer?
I think that was something I've been trying to write for a long time, sort of for Girl from Mars and stuff like that. I'd been trying to write a song that captured, that feeling, but I knew I hadn't quite done it. So I was determined to try and get this song out, and well, I wrote the tune for Oh Yeah, and I thought, this is the one. So I sort of had it planned, really.
You had a chance to play with lots of different bands. I mean, from Metallica right back around to Oasis, all these tours, Def Leppard, etc.
Yeah.
When you turned these things down, why?
Because we don't need them.
Yeah.
It's sort of like we got offered to do those big gigs with Oasis in Loch Lomond or whatever, but it's like people always go on about us having Owen as producer, and that's fair enough, like, whatever, but just too many sort of tags,
Yeah.
Just want to keep away from it. We don't need them.
Oasis are really respected as a band. I think they're a great band, but at the same time, we just want to do things in our own terms, not really being seen to be trying to latch onto their success and be pulled into that. Like, say, like Ocean Colour Scene and stuff like that. I think it's pretty sick, really, I think. We're doing our own thing, and we just want to do it by ourselves, really.
Well, how do you write? I mean, if you've been on the road most of 1996, were you able to write songs there?
No, it did take a lot out of me, doing that album, because so just decided I was going to take a big break, and while we were touring, so I haven't really written anything this year, anything since, but we've got a lot of time off, the early next year, where we're going to get some new stuff together. But I wanted to take long enough off so that it was it would be fresh, I'd have real enthusiasm for writing, and actually, bursting to write some new stuff.
And is that the way that you do it? I mean, like, do you write lyrics and melodies, or just lyrics and bring it to the other guys, or what?
I write melodies mostly. That's where I start. I find a tune that I think is really strong, and then I just start basing the whole song around that. And last minute, of course, I always write the lyrics, knowing me.
Do you worry about the fact that Tim or yourselves don't write on the road? Because a lot of bands do write on the road.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a problem at all. I mean, the last album was just like bits and pieces on the road, but I think the only real worry is whether, like, this time-wise, whether we're going to be away for too long,
Yeah.
That could be a problem, but I think we're going to take it in a stride, really, and we just ignore all the pressures, really, and just like do what we want to do, and write the tunes we do, and take our time and do it.
Do you think like that from Uncle Pat through to, say, Angel Interceptor, Kung Fu, whatever, do you think Goldfinger is the one that turns a corner? People say, wait a minute, there's much more happening here.
Well, I suppose throughout 1995 we had the 3 pop singles. It was Kung Fu, Girl from Mars, and Angel Interceptor. those had all been, well, after our first mini album, we'd sort of, I don't know, just had this urge to go, real pop, sort of find, I was really into Ramones and stuff like that, and so we were getting back into that, and we did this block of sort of free kind of throwaway pop songs, which, but then, people started to, we knew we needed to be taken a bit more seriously, and I think we needed something a bit more heavier, kind of, so Goldfinger just came out, and it was a song that fitted perfectly.
But like going back to those three, I mean, like you're not,
Yeah.
when you say throwaway pop,
Well,
like,
I
you're
mean,
very
just-
proud of them though, I'm presuming.
Yeah, I think it's really strong, especially Kung Fu and Girl from Mars. But it's sort of lighthearted,
Yeah.
and so people were just thinking that we just had like one dimension to the band, so we had to prove that we had quite a bit of depth, and Goldfinger certainly did that. I'd say.
Okay, but with those other three though, like do you think in some ways that when you finally got to listen to an album, which ironically was from a band from the north of Ireland, say from the Undertones,
Yeah.
you realised just how brilliant a 3-minute pop throwaway
Yeah,
can
well,
be?
I think it's really important, but it was just, well, Goldfinger is, I don't, well, see, it's hard to say. Yeah, pop music is, it is the best. So.
But like,
But
with
Goldfinger is still pop, but it's just a different kind of.
yeah, well, Goldfinger
Yeah.
and Oh Yeah, I mean the two
It's just
from '96.
showing we had different moods and different atmospheres, really.
So then, what can we expect? Do you think Goldfinger might be a little bit of a sort of a, I
Yeah.
don't know, thing for the second album? maybe?
Yeah, I think I'd be aiming to, something more in that vein, but I'm sure I'm really into, the Stooges and just real dirty, raw rock, yeah, at the minute. So I'm sure we'll be seeing some of that.
It's hard to say what way it's really going to go at the minute because like we haven't written anything.
Yeah.
But I think still definitely we do have love just playing like fast and hard, but at the same time melodic. But then we can do the slower stuff as well, the heavier stuff.
Do you say that you're just a rock and roll band, or that you're Irish, or that you're British, or that you're English, or whatever?
Just a rock band from down Pattern.
So if the whole thing ended tomorrow, I mean, right, just bang, the whole of Ash is gone, what do you think you'd be up to? What would you do?
Be flying an airplane for the post office.
Really? Fair play to you, Mark. All right, listen, thanks for talking to us. Enjoy
All
the
right.
game. Thanks a million. Fair play.